What's up, everybody? Bootsy, Greenwood here. I'm really happy to be coming to you from my house. I've been traveling a lot. It's nice to be home. And I've been thinking a lot about the two types of reality. So I want to give you some tips that can be really helpful for distinguishing exactly how reality creation happens and why it sometimes doesn't seem to happen, and exactly what the line is between those two things. So let's explore reality and the sort of two different types of reality. Okay, so understanding reality seems like the most basic concept that everyone should know, right? To understand reality means we can survive and ultimately, hopefully, thrive in the reality that we experience. But so many people don't know what reality is. And if I asked you point blank, hey, what is reality? You'd have a very difficult time telling me what that is. It is a concept, it's abstract, there's a word there that we're using to try and sort of encompass everything that we experience in the physical world, but it's very limited in its scope, okay? And I've talked about reality pretty extensively. My course is called Beyond Reality. That's where I take people through and sort of expose to them what's beyond this physical world. And I've talked a lot about this idea that there is the infinite world, or the world of dreams, and then there's the third dimensional world, okay? Now, mentality, dreams, thoughts, ideas, all that stuff is over here, okay? And then the third dimensional realm is this physical realm. We could call this objective reality, okay? And not that it's entirely objective. You know, some people might argue that if I leave this room, it vanishes and goes away. I don't think that's true. There's not really very much evidence there to prove that. Now, it could be possible, and that's fine, but still, we could look at this room in an objective sense. You know, there's a shelf over there, the walls are this color, there's a ceiling, etc., right? It's objective. There are things that we can agree about this reality. And then the subjective reality, however, is a little bit different. Subjective reality is how you experience reality, okay? And it truly is infinite. You can't tell someone who hears voices that the voices aren't real and convince them of that, because they're hearing the voices. Those voices are very real to that person. They're not objective, right? Like a stadium announcer might be, you know, for the 7th inning stretch, but they are very real. So both are qualified as far as reality goes. But what's true enough about this is that there can be evidence, scientific observation is what we would use, the scientific method, to test things in reality in the third dimension, okay? Now here's where I want to really be clear. The scientific method, observation, these things do not give us facts, okay? If I test something, it does not mean that, you know, if it's repeatable over time, it becomes what? It becomes a theory, right? And the difference between something in this category that we can agree on, like the sky is blue, these types of things are more objective. But what's really happened a lot, okay, is that people have talked a lot about consensus. So I want to be very clear. Science is not based on facts. It's not based on truth. It's based on observable phenomena that can be classified into theories. And we're supposed to continue to ask, continue to ask, continue to ask. Now, I've talked a lot about reality creation and groups, and what I've talked about is consensus reality, but I find that on this side. Consensus science has become very popular, where a bunch of scientists agree that X plus X equals X, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. It doesn't make it reality, okay? Just because a bunch of people believe it, if it already exists in this third dimensional realm, doesn't make it true. Now, when we come from consensus reality, creating reality, things like groups, ideas, phenomenon, movements, that stuff is based on consensus. And we can create reality based on consensus, right? We can create a movement. We can say, hey, you know what? We're going to create this thing. It's called a baseball game. And we're going to call you guys the Philadelphia Phillies. And now there's a consensus that there's a baseball team and they're the Phillies and, you know, all of these things. Now, that's very true, but that's not, but let's say that everyone said, well, you know what? I'm going to say the consensus is that you don't have to be able to see the baseball to be able to play baseball. And that's going to be our thing. So now all of a sudden people are playing with an invincible baseball and they're arguing back and forth. Where did the ball go? Did it go over here? Did it go? Because now we've gone into this subjective world. Whereas in the objective world, it's clear that if I hold the ball, I throw it over here, he hits it, then it goes over there. Everyone knows exactly what's happening, and it's objective, okay? And even if everyone agreed that the ball really went over there in a consensus, it wouldn't make the ball anymore go over there, would it? It wouldn't, no. It would still go to the same objective place in left field, even though everyone said, well, no, it went into right field. And you can see the emperor wears no clothes is an example of something like this phenomenon, where consensus doesn't change reality, okay? Not in the objective sense, but it can in the subjective sense, you know? When we get together and we maybe hold a ritual or a prayer or something like that, we all agree about a certain course of events. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to, you know, put this together, this energy. Then that consensus, it can have power and it can influence reality. Now, it's not going to change the laws of reality, right? Natural law is pretty objective. It's observable, and it's a theory. These are theories, right? I can't say for certain I know natural law. That would be incredibly arrogant of me, I suppose. However, I have experienced these things in a subjective sense, and so have other people. That gives a consensus. Now all of a sudden, you know, we can talk about these phenomenon amongst our group and influence the world to understand more about these ideas, right? And then ultimately have a bit of an objective expression of the idea. Now the idea itself doesn't change in, you know, objective reality. And the biggest thing here that we need to keep in mind is that just because a bunch of people say something is true, it doesn't make it true, okay? Just because a bunch of people are trying to make you think a certain thing doesn't make that thing any more true. So if everyone believed a lie, it wouldn't make it true. Okay, so consensus reality is something Robert Anton Wilson talks a lot about, and it's something that is, again, a very real thing. But we need to understand that consensus reality lives in this subjective world. It is not in the objective world, and there are repeatable theories. You know, I want to say gravity, but I know people could argue that, which is great, because again, it's a theory, but we experience it through observation over and over and over again. Whether it's density or gravity, I know that if I drop this, it's going to fall and hit the ground. You know, if I drop this thing, it's going to fall and hit the ground. That's testable, repeatable, over and over and over again. And no matter if a bunch of people decided that, hey, I don't believe this anymore, it wouldn't influence the outcome of that experiment. We have to understand that in this is sort of the materialist side, this side over here. And this here is the idealist side over here. Okay? Everything's just an idea that we're experiencing versus everything is out here and we can touch it. Both of these things are true at the same time, simultaneously. And what we need to keep in mind is that consensus reality does not relate to objective reality. This is very individual, okay? This is individualized. And it also, we can do it in a group too, because we can all experience something or talk about an idea and agree on a certain course of events. And that is going to bring that closer to objective reality. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to come in to objective reality, where we could test it and measure it and experience it in a physical way. But it can, okay? It can come in to objective reality. But we can't change objective reality via consensus, okay? We can influence, we can bring new things into objective reality via consensus. Things like movements, ideas, works of art, inventions even, things like that can be brought in. So what we have to keep in mind is that the nuances here are important. The difference between idealism and materialism, that they're both true, that there is an objective reality that we can all experience, right? But there's also a subjective reality where we're creating. This is the creation part, and we can bring that in. Now, we're not going to change the rules, again, in objective reality, but we can bring our own ideas, our own projects, our own, religions, our own music, you name it. We can bring all those things into the world, through reality creation, and we can create a better world through reality creation, but we're never going to change the laws that govern the physical world.